All right, up next on the awards, we have Alpha Phi Sorority, the winner of Outstanding New Construction in a Historic Area. Uh, just as part of our description here, the Deering Wilkins House was built in 1860. Today is home to the sorority women of Alpha Phi. In an attempt to make the space a suitable home for the women of Alpha Phi, Arcolab Architects designed a 10,000 square foot addition onto the historic home while maintaining the integrity of the house itself. This was another pop-up preservation, so if you're members, you got a quick, free, fun, behind-the-scenes look at this project. The connector between the old and new is referred to as the hyphen. It was a really incredible project. This tasteful addition provides the space needed for the house to serve a greater number of students without distracting from the original historic structure. So the recipient here is Alpha Phi Sorority as owner and Arcolab as architects. As a fun fact, 54 beds were added to the house as part of the renovation.
And now we're getting ready to talk to our Arcolab about their project on Millage Avenue for the Alpha Phi Sorority. And Joe, I think maybe you might have taken the lead on this project. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, great. So what I wanted to ask is, now you'll have to help me because I don't have all of my notes on that, but I know a little bit about the project. So this was the Wilkins home. I don't know, for a long time, I think.
It had been, I think the Wilkinses had bought the house in the late 70s, but it had been in the Wilkins family prior to that. I had a photo that I found in some of my archives that had it was a 1919 photo, and it was called the Wilkins house at the time. So it was originally built by the Deerings, and so it officially, I think, is called the Deerings Wilkins house. But yeah.
Right. Well, actually, while they were living there, I had an opportunity to help them with some of the issues they were having with a leaking roof. So there you go. I was a little bit involved in that.
Well, thank you, David, for that, because the roof continues to not leak, which is always a good thing.
It is a good thing, especially when you're trying to renovate and do all of that. So the project was Alpha Phi Sorority purchasing this property to make it their home. And I guess the award was for actually new construction by adding on a pretty extensive addition to, I guess, for the housing of the girls for their sorority place where they live.
That's correct. There was a rehabilitation of the house itself dates to about 1860, and it was one of the few single-family houses left in that stretch of South Millage. So it was a kind of rare opportunity to take a house that still was single-family and turn it into something different. And it's a challenge because you have a house which was quite large to begin with, but not quite large enough to become a sorority house, which required, in this particular case, there were 54 beds that were needed, and as well as assembly spaces for chapter meetings and a dining room, a commercial kitchen, and other sort of program-heavy, large-scale elements. So the decision was made in order to sort of accommodate this. We had to be very careful with the way that we modified the historic house so that what we did do did not completely overwhelm the historic house. And there were a couple different strategies as we worked through at the very beginnings of schematic design. A couple of different strategies were looked at and abandoned ultimately because we realized they were just not going to work. They weren't doing the thing that needed to be done. So yeah.
Well, it's always tricky when you're taking an existing Millage Avenue mansion, which I would definitely classify it as, and then trying to adapt for, as you say, for 54 women to live there, and then provide parking for them and site issues. And of course, the house was beautifully set back on that site, which took up a lot of front yard that you couldn't do very much with, unfortunately. But y'all handled that as well as could be expected, and thankfully Athens Clarke County has learned that there is a little bit of give and take when you have to work on something like that. But I know the Wilkins loved that house, but you know, there weren't many people that were going to follow along behind them and turn that into a single family residence. So
Right.
I know they were delighted to have the opportunity to see their house get passed on to somebody that would take care of it, which is one of the nice things about that's happened on Millage Avenue is that so many of those gracious homes were saved because of the fraternities and sororities. And so it's, you know, it's a little bit of a two-edged sword, I guess, in Athens, but at the same time, we would not have any of these outstanding homes to look at and to enjoy if it hadn't have been for these organizations taking them over and turning them into to their house. So, but you know, I think too, with the opportunity that you had to do the additions in the back, I guess it gave you the ability to take the sort of 4 rooms and I guess restore them. Was there was there some work done on the main house as part of this project?
So absolutely, the parlor floors, the sort of mid floor at the porch level we were able to maintain the Georgian house configuration of 2 rooms in front of 2 rooms, central hall, that traditional configuration. The second floor was organized the same way, and we were actually able to, with some modifications, we were able to keep that configuration and house girls in those bedrooms of the historic house as well. The basement level, you know, this house is on a raised basement. The basement level had probably a greater level of modification because that became the house director's suite. And so there was kitchenette inserted, there were some mechanical laundry rooms, things like that, more utilitarian functional things added. We ended up having to rebuild the entire wraparound porch, not this column structure, but the deck structure, because the loading for 250 young women is a lot greater than 2 folks standing on their front porch. So there was pretty heavy duty structural rebuild of that porch in order to make it usable for the sorority.
And we should note that the porches are very important to these sororities because during the season of rush, Millage Avenue becomes a completely different place, and they all want to be on the front porch doing their cheers and skits and all that sort of thing. So
it might as well be a stage during that time of the year. It's a stage.
It's a stage, exactly. So part of the design issues that you had to deal with, of course, as you said, was adding on these rather large structures behind the house so that they didn't overwhelm it, and that you still had the sense of going down Millage Avenue, that you certainly had the sense of the original house and how beautiful it is and all that. So you used the term hyphen. So for our audience, explain to them what a hyphen is in this particular case.
All of you preservationists should be patting me on the back for spreading the term hyphen to so many uninitiated people, because both the project manager, the owner, and all the young women living in the house know exactly what a hyphen is now.
Yes.
But you know, it's a terrific mechanism by which you can take large masses and kind of separate them from each other. And it has a great tradition in architectural history as well to take large masses and kind of differentiate them and create a hierarchy of massing, which clearly identifies primary elements and secondary and tertiary elements. So in this case, we separated both additions from the main house by a hyphen, and then the 2 new additions in the rear are separated by another hyphen, which is a glassy hyphen. Part of the design intent of that glassy hyphen was to keep the openness at the back of where the porch wraps around in the historic house. You know, if you looked off the back of that porch, it was wide open to the backyard. And here we're going to put 10,000 square feet of new construction stretched across the back of the site. So the glass hyphen lines up with the back of the porch on the left side, so it maintains some element of transparency through kind of mimicking or recreating that vision or that view through to the back property. Unfortunately, now it's all parking lot, which was a shame, but a necessity, as you said, David, with this kind of use. You've got to work out the parking.
Well, Yes, but when you're talking about a structure that large, it is nice to be able to break it up into smaller elements. And so I think having those connectors and those hyphens there really give you an opportunity to do that. Well, and also, I mean, from a programming standpoint, you've got some very large spaces that you got to create. So
Yeah.
they all have they eat together, and they have chapter meetings and those sorts of things. Were the chapter rooms in the new part or the old
They
part?
are. One of the nice things about the way we configured it, you can see from the photo that's on the screen, building masses is in kind of an L shape. So the historic building sits to the right, has a almost equivalent sized mass behind it that's new construction, and then a wing that shifts off to the left on the north side with that glass hyphen between. From any point on the property, you can only see 2 out of the 3 masses. So it helps. You're never looking at the entire building at one time, and it helps mitigate that overall size because of the view or the visibility is somewhat limited. And what it allowed us to do, that configuration also allowed us to keep the central axis. These historic Georgian homes have central hall that goes through that usually leads right out the back of the house.
Right.
So you're putting a new building onto the back of it, but it allowed us to keep that axis going through into the new addition, and it enters the chapter room right dead center. And then on the back side of the building, there are French doors which align with those axes, so that visual axis is continued through the house as it sort of in keeping that going, keeping that line of sight going through the house.
Right. Well, and I think in this particular case, it was so nice that you had this raised house so that you could get a 3-story building in the back there without towering over anything in front of you. So
absolutely, you may know this already. The ceiling height on that in the historic raised basement is only 7 feet. So we were able to. Fortunately, the site allowed us to dig down another foot in the new construction, so we could get at least 8 feet there. So there's a little bit of a step up and down between the old house and the new house. But on all the other floors, they line through all at the same elevation.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, it takes a lot to get 54 beds in a place like that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's outstanding. And I've seen a couple of comments from our community where they just, Tony Turner says, the rehabilitation of this lovely home is remarkable. The additions are superior. So great work, Joe, he says. So, I mean, I think that, that's fantastic. So in the front of this house, for years and years, there was always this statue of a dog, and it's still there. Do you know any history?
Still there. So they love this. The Alpha Phi folks love the dog almost as much as the Wilkinses love the dog. The story is that dog was a prop in Gone with the Wind, and
What?
it was featured.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was featured in the background of the scene where the daughter is riding the horse and falls off the horse and is injured. I have to say personally that I have watched that section of the film, and if that dog is in the film, it is very small and very brief, but but it's significant enough that it's become this kind of iconic piece that's associated with the house. So the dog got its own construction enclosure during construction, and it was not a piece of equipment came anywhere near it. And so it even originally it had a holly hedge planted around it, which kind of buried it, and that was really to keep the vandals away from it. Now it's well anchored into the ground and it's freestanding, so it's much easier to see. But it is in exactly the same spot it has always been.
Well, there you go. Well, Jennifer Lewis, thank you for asking about that. We would never have known that it starred in the Gone with the Wind film. There you go. Next time I watch Gone with the Wind,
You will have to watch very closely.
I will be looking for that dog somehow in all of that. So, Joe, when you took this project on, I'm assuming you had a committee.
Yeah.
It's always fun working with committees. So who else from your office did you and Lori and Gabe and others work together in the beginning stages of this?
Yeah. So this was it. I think we lived up to our name with our approach to this project, because each one of us took a piece of it. It it certainly was larger than anything I had worked on previously, and I sort of needed the assistance of my partners to really understand the entire process. Lori is great at project management and keeping her eye on the ball as far as all of the administrative reviews, the regulatory reviews. That whole process was really spearheaded by her, and it was very, very complicated. The parking counts were up in the air for a very long time. It's, you know, you don't realize just how difficult. The design part of this project was probably the easiest part of it. Getting the approvals was by far the hardest part. And for a long time, it wasn't quite sure whether we were going to make it or not. There were a lot of ways that this project could have gone off the rails very easily. And so it's sort of a testament, I think, to both perseverance and also the Athens community, in both commissioners and neighbors, all working together to try to get the best outcome from this project and see it through to the very end. And it fortunately worked out beautifully, I think.
Well, it really did, and Athens is so fortunate to have this landmark still be a part of Millage Avenue. And maybe this is a good time to give a shout out to Josh Coons, because they were involved in the site planning, and it was it's always tough.
It is.
People think
water. You've got so many things that have to be dealt with that you don't even see when you drive by.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, I know most people, they see the structure and they think that's the real difficult part, but so many times it's all about the site.
Right. That's right.
So, well, thank you again for being with me tonight and talking about this really outstanding project. And I'm glad that we had a few minutes to really talk to you and to your colleagues about the things that y'all have done for Athens, and so particularly with this. So I think we're leaving on a real highlight tonight. But again, thanks, Joe. And whoop, as my time period telling me I'm supposed to be hushed. Oops. Okay, so all right. So anyway, thank you again and appreciate your time.